Hello, and welcome to Unity. My name is Chris, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you to Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. For those of you watching on YouTube, live or later, be sure to say hi in the chat thread. Like this video and subscribe to the Unity of Fredericksburg YouTube channel. If you're able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for a full Sunday morning experience. It includes music, prayer, and connection. Send an email to info@uofva.org to receive the Zoom link. And for everybody local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. And now, here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thanks so much, Chris, and welcome, everyone, whether you're watching right now as for our live broadcast. Today is June the 25th, or if you're watching later, whenever you're watching, we are so glad to have you here with us. We've been doing a 3-part series in June, and today's part 3 of the 3-part series. We're talking about core unity practices, and I call them acknowledge, release, and affirm. So a little reminder of what we've done so far this month. The first step one was acknowledgement. And if you missed that, of course, you can go back and find the recording. That was on June the 4th. And that step of acknowledgement is a step that is basically about getting real with what's happening in your life, in your body, in your circumstances, and to stop doing things like avoiding, deferring, ignoring, just pushing through or bypassing what's going on. It's a practice of pausing and noticing, feeling your feelings. Not everyone wants to feel their feelings, but it's really important to take a minute to do that. We can't improve our lives until we acknowledge what is going on in our lives. So that's step one, acknowledge. Step two is what I call intentional release. We talked about that on June 11th, and the old name for that in Unity teachings is denials. And this is when we stop giving power to thoughts and beliefs that no longer serve our higher good. So when doubts and negative thoughts rise up, those old stories and old doubts about I'm not good enough, we sweep them away. We create an intentional release statement. And here's the suggestion that I have. You phrase it this way: I give no power to thoughts of lack or limitation or whatever you want to put in there. So I also sometimes talk about this as kind of like pulling the weeds from our consciousness, sort of identifying the things that aren't serving our highest good, pulling the weeds in our consciousness. And today we're going to continue with that garden analogy. Since it's a great gardening time of year, we're on step 3, which I'm calling planting seeds for the soul. This is all about affirmation. So after we pull the weeds, we need to plant the seeds of what we want to grow in our lives. So our founders, Unity founders, based these practices on the teachings of Jesus. Basically, everything in Unity is based on the teachings of Jesus. We're not here to worship or anything like that. We're here to see Jesus as a way shower, an example of how we can live our best lives. And these practices of denials or intentional release and affirmation is based on Jesus's teachings, where he says, let your words be no, no, and yes, yes. So the denial part, the intentional release, that's the no, no. We don't want this anymore. And here today, we're talking about the yes, yes part. So what is an affirmation? Now, most of us think we know what that is. That's a common word. We have a good idea of what it is to sort of affirm and be positive and be looking for the good. But let's get a little deeper here today. Let's get more specific. Like an intentional release, an affirmation is a statement. An intentional release statement pulls your mind and emotions away from what you don't want. And an affirmation points your attention toward aspects of your divine nature. So we talk about in Unity that which we call God, that universal God mind, universal presence, is expressing at the point of each and every one of us. And an affirmation helps us remember and reference that rather than referencing what's going on in our outer world. It directs our thoughts and feelings toward omnipresent spiritual truth, qualities of God that are always present, even when you can't see it with your human eyes. So an affirmation is a truth statement, and they have wonderful, powerful, positive energy. But affirmations are different than positive thinking. Now, positive thinking is great, but affirmations are more specific and more powerful. They have to do with reminding ourselves of our divine nature, of our expressions of God mind. So there are some great examples about the difference between positive thinking and affirmations as it's taught in Unity in this book called How to Pray Without Talking to God by Reverend Linda Martella Whitsett. So here's an example that she gives us. So positive thinking would be, it's all good. So saying it's all good might help you feel better, but it's not necessarily a spiritual truth, because when something unfortunate happens in your life, you might not want to be, as I'll often say, if you're knee deep in the mud, you might not want to be saying, oh, it's all good. But a truth statement that kind of expresses on a deeper level what you're getting at when you say it's all good is divine nature is good. God is the essence of goodness, expressing all the time, everywhere. So positive thinking might say something like, things have a way of turning out all right. And that's very soothing, but we all know that unfortunate things can happen. So a statement that's more rooted in spiritual truth, absolute truth, divine order expresses in my consciousness. I claim divine order in all circumstances. So I'm hoping you see the difference. Affirmations are not positive thinking. They're not the same thing as that. They're also not possibility thinking, where you're like, ooh, I'd like that, but this or something better, because there might be more possibilities. That's all about things in the outer world. And affirmations are not about things out in the human world. They're about things in consciousness, divine aspects of consciousness, of God mind. Affirmations are also not about wishful thinking. Like just thinking, sitting and thinking, I am a millionaire is not going to make you a millionaire. But referencing abundance in your thoughts and your feelings, that will draw you towards decisions which will help you have a more prosperous experience of life. Affirmations are realization thinking. So rather than positive thinking or wishful thinking, affirmations are realization thinking. And let me just read you a quote from How to Pray Without Talking to God by Linda Martella Whitsett. So here's what she says. Affirmations are more than optimistic and hopeful thoughts. They are statements of truth stemming from spiritual realization. They are realization thinking. Realization thinking. So affirmations bring our attention to spiritual truth, align us with the truth of our being, no matter what the outer appearances are. They remind us of all that we are in the midst of all that we're dealing with. in our outer lives, because a lot of times our brains will associate with all that we're dealing with in our lives. And we have to take a breath and remind ourselves of the truth of what and who we are. So, how to craft a powerful affirmation? Would you like to know how? The first thing is begin with some time in reflection. So right now, I'd like to ask that you just think of an area in your life that you would like to improve. Just think of that for a moment. I want you to begin with your feelings. Some of you might not be great friends with your feelings, but your feelings are really important when it comes to kind of guiding yourself in an affirmative direction, moving out of your head, moving into your heart space, shifting your attention down into the heart space. This is the seat of the power of love, magnetizing, unifying, and harmonizing. And ask your heart, in this situation that you're thinking of, how do I want to feel? You might be really aware of how you are feeling right now in this situation, whatever that is for you, but just ask yourself, how do I want to feel? And just notice what comes up. As you're working on this project of putting together an affirmation, try to keep it simple, simple little words, but just take a breath right now and ask, how do I want to feel? And whatever comes up for you, that sort of becomes the direction, the core of how you put together an affirmation. Now, next, I suggest that you move your attention even deeper into the body, down into your core, into your belly, and into your gut, some people would call it. This is the seat of our divine powers of wisdom and order. And in the small of your back, that's your power of strength. There's a lot of energy down there. And our body provides us guidance through intuition, right? And that'll show up as a physical urge, a this feels good or doesn't feel good, a yes, no kind of energy. And here is where we can ask again, take a deep breath and ask yourself, when you're focused on this area, what truth is here for me to realize? What truth is here for me to realize? And again, as you're working on your affirmation, try to keep it simple. Try to keep it simple words of truth, one really good set of references as you're practicing putting together an affirmation for yourself is the 12 powers. We spend one every month for a whole year. So you all should be familiar with the 12 powers. If not, look them up. And they're really good for using for building affirmations. So you ask yourself, what truth is here for me to realize? So that's how you start the process with yourself. You want to, just a reminder, base your affirmations on how do you want to feel in whatever this circumstance is, and what truth is here for me to realize. And again, reference the 12 powers. It's a great little study set that you can use. So let's do an example. Okay, let's say you have a loss of employment and you've got a resulting concerns around your finances. How are things going to go? What's going to happen? So you've got a lot of feelings stirring around about that. But you sit with that question, how do I want to feel? Well, I want to feel secure. I want to be able to trust the universe. The flow of the universe. So I don't want to I don't want to feel fearful or anxious anymore. And then perhaps you sit with this question of what spiritual truth is here for me to realize. Well, the first one that comes up for me is I need to get in line with the principle of abundance, right? My human brain is seeing lack, so I need to get in alignment with abundance. So here's an example of this is actually 2 sentences. And the first one is, focused in faith, I perceive the truth of divine abundance. Followed by, I am secure as I recognize the perpetual flow of good in my life. So those are two sentences there. Notice I've referenced the power of faith, which is one of the 12 powers. And I've used an I am statement. I am. And what you want to do with your affirmations to really make them cook, make them work for you, is you want to lean into feeling that feeling. That feeling that you want to have. You really want to spend time just diving in and feeling that feeling. So some weeks ago, we had a guest speaker who specializes in the power of attraction. So this is where you want to feel that feeling. You want to get your vibrations into that mode of feeling secure and trusting. And then you will guide yourself towards decisions and choices that will align with that feeling. So let me just read this actually two affirmation statements again. Focused in faith. I perceive the truth of divine abundance. I am secure as I recognize the perpetual flow of good in my life. So, how are you feeling about this? Is it working for you? Do you think it's going to work? Have you tried it before? I don't know. I'm imagining lots of different answers. I'd like to point out a few practical things. One of the things that I love about Unity is that Unity walks hand in hand with science. So a lot of us come from religious backgrounds where they distance themselves from science, and they ask you to believe things that are not in alignment with science. Well, let me tell you, the kind of things that Unity has been talking about from the late 1800s through now, science has been catching up with Unity. So you can be aligned with science. Those of us who have more kind of logical, mathematical, scientific kinds of brains, Unity is a perfect partner for that. Because what we're talking about as we talk about intentional release and affirmation is brain science. So we are training our brains. Our brains want to look at the outer world and say, this is reality. And what we're suggesting is that the actual reality is beyond the physical material world. And it's an essence of abiding truth that rides underneath, that underlies all things. So we're working with our brains to say, I'm not going to believe in this. I am going to believe in that. So brain science will tell us that when you're trying to learn something new, some of you may have heard I did some looking up on this so I could be up to date, because things are evolving all the time, right? So you might have heard that it takes 21 days to kind of learn something new. What I was actually reading when I was doing my research is that it takes 21 days or 3 weeks to sort of break the old pattern of thought. So that would be sort of the denial or the intentional release phase. And then it's another 3 weeks for us to get into the new pattern. So what we suggest in Unity is that you do that intentional release. Now, you don't want to stay there too long in that denial place, because then you end up giving energy to what you're giving too much energy to the weed. You want to pull them and let them go, and then follow that up with an affirmation. And one of the keys to affirmations is repeat, repeat, repeat. Just keep talking with yourself, keep saying it, keep doing it. Make it simple. Like I gave you an example that had 2 sentences, mostly because I wanted to, kind of see, have you see me kind of working with a couple of different things, but you can make it short and simple for yourself. I am divine. Something like that, whatever, and just repeat, repeat, repeat. And then when your brain throws up those doubts, then you just brush them away. Thank you very much. We're done with that now. Here's what we're going to believe from this point forward. I am abundant, or whatever it is that you've put together for yourself. Now, talking about our brains, there are pretty common pitfalls that we can get into. So let's give some, pay some attention to that. So claiming specific outcomes is not a part of affirmations. Now, our brain might want to say, so when are we going to have this? How big is it? What color is it going to be? How's it going to work? All that stuff. That's your brain. That has nothing to do with an affirmation. The affirmation, as I've told you, needs to be about how you want to feel and spiritual truth, not about it's going to be 2 feet tall and purple and I'm going to get it on Tuesday. None of those things are a part of affirmations. And your brain will want to say, well, I can't see how this is going to be accomplished. I don't see how that's going to work. Again, that is none of your business. When you're working on an affirmation, it's about how you want to feel and spiritual truth, not about how's it going to get done or when is it going to get done. When it comes, again, your brain will want to talk about timing, when, how soon, and your brain will want to compare to how things have happened for other people. Well, this person got that done in 2 years, so I should be able, it's like, again, that's none of your business when it comes to affirmations. You need to stay out of that. That's all about your brain and your brain trying to compare to others and have things done in a certain amount of time. Let's remember here that clocks and calendars are all human invention. All right. There is no time in God. So those are our common pitfalls when your brain kicks up those kind of questions, that kind of interference. Again, just brush it aside. This has nothing to do with this process. Now, you'll want to keep working with your affirmations, keep them fresh, tweak them, work on them. And you might want to look for some references. Now, I've talked about a couple times, this book is a great reference for like, how do I put together a good affirmation for this particular situation? She has a few examples that she works through that might be something that you are experiencing. And also another great reference is through Unity World Headquarters. If you go to unity.org, search there for monthly affirmations. They have a list of affirmations for every month of the year that you can like, oh, that one looks good. Let me work with that one. And as we kind of come to the end of this time talking about affirmations and move into our time of meditation, I just want to close by saying that the reason that we talk about this, the reason that we put so much emphasis on this is that affirmations work. Affirmations help you to navigate the most challenging aspects of your life. And for me personally, I have used them to help myself anchor through some really challenging situations. Very quickly, I'll just share just so we can kind of close in a space that's more of the heart space and not in the head. I was involved in a very serious automobile accident in 2015. Where, when I asked questions like, how many broken bones do I have? The medical professionals would look away and wouldn't give me a number. They used words like shattered and things like that. And because I had been schooled up in Unity, as soon as I was able to, I created an affirmation. My affirmation for that phase of that process was, miraculous healing is taking place right now. And then as I went through the process kind of deeper and faced even more and more serious challenges, I added another aspect, basically referencing wholeness. And I would affirm miraculous healing is taking place right now, and wholeness is expressing through every cell of my body. And basically, I stayed with that and worked with that through 6 months in the hospital in a wheelchair, started learning to walk after about 6 months, and just kept that chorus. And anytime other suggestions would come up from doctors like, oh, we think you'll walk again, but you'll need a special shoe because one leg will be shorter than the other, I just released that and stayed in my affirmation. And I'm sitting here in front of a camera, but those who know me will testify that I am able to walk and my legs are not different lengths. So the reason that we talk about affirmations and we talk about how important they are and how powerful they are is because they work, my friend, because they work. So let's take a deep breath together here. Let's move into a time of meditation where we can sort of review these 3 steps we've been talking about this month. Just move into the breath. Just feel the breath moving in and out of your body. If you wish, you can allow your outer eyes to soften. And right here, right now, we just release any attachments that we have to particular outcomes, to particular ways of being. We release any attachments that we have to patterns or people, and any attachments we have in our feelings and in our thoughts. We move into the garden of consciousness, the realm of thoughts and feelings, that space where we can identify patterns and thoughts that no longer serve our highest good. And as they come to our attention, we can bless them. We thank them for their service to bringing us to this moment, and we let them go. Intentionally release them. And now in this garden of our consciousness, having pulled the weeds, we intentionally move into this action of planting seeds of the soul, asking ourselves, how do I want to feel? What truth is here for me to realize? Let's take those questions right now into the silence for a few minutes together. And as we begin to bring our focus back into the here and now, in your body, in the seat that you're in, just wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. Once again, witness the breath moving in and out of your body. I want to once more practice that fundamental intentional release. I give no power to thoughts of lack or limitation. I know that power comes from where I give my attention, and I give no power to thoughts of lack, thoughts of limitation. And as we come back to right here, right now, we'll close with an affirmation. I like to put my hand on my heart as I affirm. It's pretty simple, folks. Here's our affirmation. I am divine in nature, and I am grateful. Say it with me. I am divine in nature, and I am grateful. Let's do it one more time. I am divine in nature, and I am grateful. So I am, so you are, my friends. And thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to hand it back over to our service leader, Chris.
Thanks for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation. Support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again for